Hello everyone, welcome to the second gameplay video for the WIXOSS Spring Ceremony, North America. This is round two, so coming off my awful yet somehow miraculous victory in round one, 1-0, and I see a no limit team, which does not surprise me to see. I mean, no limit was by far the most represented team, and knew I was going to be in for a tough matchup just because, I mean, No Limit is kind of the king right now. And it's relatively simple and straightforward and not a whole lot you can do. So he has a pretty straightforward opening turn, grows into Hirana, obviously, grows into Ray. So he's going to have me discard. He's picking one at random. He hits a Zhao. My opening hand this time was much better. I had obviously the Zhao. I also had an Alphard and a Servant for some level ones. I had a Lancelot again, and I had a Gauche. So I have a much more well-rounded hand. But the fact that I'm going second in this matchup is kind of a problem. I really need to go first here just to help get to level 3 as soon as possible, and then have the punchline turn, and then have the potential MC line once per game turn to get that extra damage in there. But I don't want to spoil anything too much. So again, relatively standard opening, grow into lion, grow into wolf. You know, you kind of see this pretty much every time. There's virtually no reason not to do VJ Wolf laser on turn one, at least not in the current game that I can think of. Like there's not really any enter burn situation or anything that can affect, you know, the enter that you do get. So you may as well just kind of do it, get out of the way, because you can potentially grow into level 2. Not that I would, you know, but you at least have the option to do that kind of thing. So I'm trying to see if I think I'm trying to decide whether or not to grow into Love It to clear 2 of his lanes and just start swinging in. So there's an Alphard and a Triumph. Well, it looks like I am opting to go ahead and bring in the Love It, which I do. So I'll go ahead and vanish his, I don't even know what that was. Doesn't matter now. So we'll move to attacks. Alphard, so this is the Alphard trigger, which you can see Alphard drew into an Alphard, so sort of the free draw. And then the open lane, he hits a burning, oh my god, deafening inferno, which of course vanishes my Triumph. And now in my head I'm like, well, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have vanished his other thing, because that was just a waste of a lane opener right there, which is unfortunate. So I think this you'll see a relatively common trend in this game, that I hit some really bad life bursts at really bad times. But I mean, that's just kind of what happens. You have to deal with that kind of thing. So I get a couple of his life cloth. I do get an extra card off the Alphard, which is nice, because you know, free cards is free cards, so we can't argue with that. And that's one of the reasons why I like running Alphard, just because it's potential free value. Because getting the ones out is much more important than kind of like paying one to get either the ones or the twos. Because usually, if you're playing a hand angle, you're pulling a level 1 anyway for the most part, unless somehow you whiff. But there are a lot of, like, hitting a 2 on your punchline isn't as backbreaking as hitting a 1. So I'm usually okay with kind of the loss in like a guaranteed card versus hitting the one specific cards that I want to do. So I think he's just doing some general. Oh, he's doing a Ray again, so I got to discard. So he hits a Lancelot. I didn't see what that other one was. So yeah, very hand control-y, which is kind of a problem because this deck really wants to make sure it's fully efficient on its early turns. So, you know, denying those resources means he can potentially save, you know, life cloth that way if I just don't have enough bodies to fill the lanes. Obviously, the Romale comes in, and now he's got 3 open lanes. Not a whole lot I can do. I can potentially go into like crossfade, but it's too early, so I just kind of, at this point, let him go in, because then, you know, you generate a whole bunch of enter. So there's a Chandelier, which lets me pull a Signy and a spell, so I decide to pull the Lancelot back. Really no other good options there. And then he flips into a PRJ. We had somebody join the channel for some reason. I don't know why. and then the Hirana attack, which I was able to guard. So again, this is sort of like the standards so far in the matchup. Like if you're seeing how does No Limit play against Card Jockey and vice versa, like this is basically what it is. So no real surprises at this point. It's just kind of being which deck can get out first, who hits better life bursts, that kind of thing. Do I whiff my punchline, which so far I'm 0 for 1 right now. I opt to charge another PRJ. I don't remember what else is in my hand, but there may be a third one in my hand. I don't remember. Having those discards earlier means that I have to be much more careful about what I charge just to make sure that I have enough bodies and ways to clear lanes and that kind of thing and fill my own lanes. So I was able to get that Lancelot from the Chandelier, so I play that and vanish his Percival. Second Lancelot comes in and vanishes the Romale. So none of this should be too surprising, I don't think. I don't remember if I have a third or not. I'm starting to think I don't. Yeah, so we just go right into attack. So I actually did have an open lane, which is unfortunate because it saves him from needing to clear it. I don't think, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be able to play the Lancelot anyway because my limit is 5. So then he flips into a, I can't see what that is, but it vanished my other Lancelot. So again, really clutch life burst, saving him 2 life cloth already. Servant, which is fine. Nothing I can do about that. But so basically at this point, I'm already 2 life cloth behind just because of the 2 really bad life bursts, which kind of means that now it's going to be a lot harder for me to actually win on my turn 3. If I was able to get him that extra 2 damage, then all of a sudden odds would be extremely good that I'd be able to swing in for lethal on turn 3, but now I'm 2 cloth behind, so I'm going to need to figure out ways to clear his lanes, which I have. I mean, I can always go into crossfade to clear at least one of them. I've used 2 Lancelots already, so maybe I have a Deafening Inferno. I'd rather not use Wolf right now, just because for me, in this particular matchup, I'd rather kind of turbo out the Love It into a to pay the extra to crush the life cloth, just because basically Card Jockey versus No Limit is kind of a balls out race to the finish. Like whoever can go in first is the person who's going to have the upper hand. So he goes into Akino to bounce back my Lancelot, which kind of sucks, but I do get to keep it, so I can potentially use it again. So we see a Rose Quartz. We see, I don't know who that is. I think that's just the vanilla 10K level 2, if I remember right. Is that? Now that I'm looking back at this. Oh no, he's used his Ray. His Ray is level 2. So he does have enough. I was wondering if he had enough limit, but if he's got a 3 and 2 2s, yeah. So he's still good there. So basically what I'm trying to figure out is who I want to banish. Because I think he's moved to attacks at the, well, I'm still looking at my hand. I may be deciding, kind of like the last game, do I pay the full 6 here to get the extra crush? Which this one is a little bit better because I know he's going to have 2 guaranteed attacks against me, and then his Elrig attack, which I don't remember if I have a guard at this point or not. It's the same kind of dilemma as before. Do I pay the full 6 and then hope I flip into a white source so I can grow again? Or do I just pay the 2, clear a lane, and hope I can find the extra damage elsewhere? I think that's probably what's going on, just based on, because his lane is, I mean, his board is full, my board's empty. I think I'm just deciding whether or not to go for it. I'm asking him cards in hand. And to his credit, his tag is Tiga. I don't remember what his real name is, but he was a cool guy. So we're probably having a chill time talking about it too, as I'm kind of deciding whether or not to go through with this or not. It looks like I do opt not to do it. I figure I'll take the full hit, see what happens. I flip into a Chandelier. don't know if that's the right decision for me to not do it. I feel, judging by how it went in the previous game, I think the right decision there is probably to grow into crossfade, which you will see in a moment why that'll become a problem for me on the next on his next turn, which you'll see. So he flips into a good dig, um, which I pull a Cercinus. I don't know why in my head looking at this now, because that could have gone to the field. Um, I need to read good dig. Let me grab it real fast. I'm pretty sure good dig can go to the field. Yeah, so that's another that could have actually saved me a damage, which I that may have mattered actually. Hindsight is 2020, and you're in the moment and you don't think about it, but that's actually potentially a bad mistake that I didn't catch until I rewatched this right now, and I didn't know I had made it. Um, again, at the end of the day, I don't know if it would have saved me. Spoiler alert, I guess I do end up losing this match. Part of it is no limit being no limit. Part of it also, weirdly enough, I managed to draw 0 spells like the entire game. You can see, I think 3 of my good digs have been in my life cloth, which is kind of a problem. You get at least some value out of it anyway, and I guess you don't have to pay for it. But it just felt like there was nothing I could do because I didn't have any good digs, so I was basically stuck with what I had in my hand, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. So, I think I'm trying to figure out, is there a way I can do this? His Signy also, because again, I am running the Silent Assassin, but he's got 2 10s. He's only got 1 12. So at the moment, that doesn't really. It gets me 1 extra damage in. But it also, I know that he's probably got Akino Bye Bye because his Akino is still level 1. So I do need to kind of combat against that. So in my head, I'm like, I could kind of go all out now, but that means he's probably going to be able to stop me. There's finally a good dig. So I guess I did have one. So I think I'm looking to see what my options are going to be first before committing to something here, deciding what to pay with. I almost paid with the amino acid, but I realized I guess I did have a servant in there. Um, but I would need a green source, although I could see a triumph in there. So weighing all my options before really going in, I know that I pretty much have to punchline on this turn no matter what. So if I can, this is another reason why not having the spells to cast, like getting good digs off the top is like okay because they're free, but at the same time you don't get as many cards out of them as you would if you play them. So it means that it can actually be harder for you to actually filter out the 1s and 2s that you would potentially be flipping into with your punchline. So I basically was trying to A, set up my hand so that I know what all of my options are before committing, and then B, pulling out as many of the level 1s and 2s as I can to maximize the odds of hitting something on the punchline. So PRJ comes out, not much of a surprise. I think I'm deciding whether or not to pay for the enter effect, which I don't. And then we have a Zhao. And this is another reason why I'm like struggling. Because if I had gone into Crossfade, I'd have another +1 limit. I think I have a second PRJ in my hand, but I don't have enough limit to play it because I only can go up to 6. And this is where kind of a lot of things in my head were like, crap, if I had done this, if I had done this. So I'm forced to play Cercinus here, which is a little bit smaller. It does give me a little bit of filtering, I guess. But I'm like 90% sure there's a servant. I'm like 90% sure I have a second PRJ and just don't have the limit to play it. And I don't want to use my Love It right now for whatever reason. I think I only have 5 enter after that Cercinus. So I think the question was, do I play the Cercinus, filter out through my deck a little more, or do I grow into Crossfade, Crush a Cloth, and try to swing in for lethal right here? So I move to attacks. There's Akino Bye Bye, which is pretty much what I expected and why I didn't want to put too much emphasis on clearing out his lanes. So it's kind of weird that he actually did it with a full board. Like there's nothing I could do about his Signy. I had no way to remove them. They're just stuck there. The fact that he had vanilla level 2s also really hurt me because if they had abilities or potentially were smaller, I could have used Lancelot or something like that. So I just down my Signy here. It's relatively standard practice just because there's a lot of life bursts that only hit up to Signy. So there's, unless there's like a very specific reason, you really, just as a general note, you should just always be attacking with your Signy, especially if they're smaller, just to get them downed, because then they can potentially dodge life bursts. At least for now, I don't know if there's other cards in the future that will hit other Signy. So I flip into Cercinus, which is a little unfortunate. So I only get 2 attacks instead of the 3. He's bounced my PRJ, so he doesn't need to pay anything to guard. Um, I think that's nothing. And then that one might be a Nobunaga or something. Something, something that was, I believe, inconsequential here. So I am down. I have his Akino has opened a lane for him. I'm down to 1 life cloth. We all know what Hirana's, once per game is, that she crushes it, and then Glory Grow, which obviously he's kind of not so subtly going into, which to be expected at this point, right? So the lane is open. He can crush my last Signy, although I do have, crossfade potentially. But the fact that I can't guard his attacks anymore, that's going to be a problem. And then he also plays Go to the Top, which is really bad. So I actually may have had an out with, although I didn't have enough to crush his life cloth anyway. So he burns 3 of my enter. I'm still left with 2, so I still have the option to do crossfade. I don't believe I need to check Wolf. Oh, Wolf gives you 5K. So I conceivably, um, if he didn't use Go to the Top, I could have crossfaded to vanish 1. I could have gone into Mirage for VJ Wolf to vanish a second one. Although I don't know if he's going to vanish anything else on my board or not. I guess I can wait and see before I make those outlandish statements. Because I potentially have 2 pieces of removal in my Elrig deck. But now that he's burned me, I absolutely do not have that. So he plays a Nobunaga, and he's going to vanish probably Zhao, yeah. So yeah, now, well, how much? No, I actually don't think that would have mattered because his Rose Quartz is 12, and Mirage has to have a greater power. Powerless, yeah. So Mirage actually would not have helped me there because the one Signy I had was across the lane from the only Signy I could vanish with it. So he's got 2 open lanes, and he's got his Glory Grow. I don't remember if he uses the once per game, but at this point it's looking real bad because I just don't have enough enter or resources to do anything with it. And oh, that's a Phoenix. That's what that is. So he's enter burned me for 1. Not that it really mattered. So there's crossfade, just for the sake of having my pride. But this game is pretty much. I mean, it was over probably a turn and a half ago. I would say my critical error was not crossfading on his turn 3. If I had done that, it probably would have changed the landscape of the rest of the game, and I may have been able to sneak a win through. He crushes a Lancelot, and then yeah, there's the once per game, but I cannot guard his Akino attack or his Hirana attack just because of that's how Glory Grow works. So that's the end of that one. Unfortunately, we are 1-1 at this point. I did learn some things watching this. I'm glad I actually recorded this because that was missing that good dig life burst actually potentially made a difference in the game. And if I had that extra life cloth, if I had that extra life cloth, the double crush would not have mattered, and I could have let that go through and then bought myself another turn. So live and learn, I guess. Part of you know, the story of playing through these games is figuring out what your mistakes are, that kind of thing. So hopefully you learned something from it as well. And we will see you in the next one. Little spoiler alert for round 3. Round 3 is my matchup against the Mono Blue Dream Team. So that's one you do not want to miss. So hope to see you there. Thanks.